So,
that's good.
but it was needed. So what I was saying is that when I put this out on LinkedIn, loads of people, obviously, and one of you responded, and we've had a few people come through from that now, and the conversations have been crazy. So Jared, a guy who coaches at Malmo Football Club in Sweden. I'd never spoke to Jared before, and he got the job at Malmo from a LinkedIn DM, and he accepted the job, and then didn't know where Malmo was.
Wow, sounds
and
like
then
Rob.
he googled it. Yeah, googled it afterwards. He was like, "I'm going to Sweden."
Yeah, nice. It's a good result.
And so, and it creates some, and we get we've got history with one another, but it creates amazing opportunities for people to tell their story and talk about coaching and their own experiences, aside to all the what should we see, like the resident podcasters. You hear the same people on the same podcast doing the same things over and over again, and it's just regurgitated nonsense. And I think when I put my book out, I did a lot of podcasts from there and tried to do a different one for everyone. So every time you listen to me, you heard a different story. But otherwise, people are just fucking boring.
Yeah, it's tiring to do that though as well a bit.
Oh, mate, so tiring. Like, what is speed? Stop it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I've got for any of the other listeners that are listening to this, we've got head teachers coming up, we've got business people coming up, we've got some awesome motivational speakers, we've got a really good part of the coaching industry that isn't tapped into, and that's for the coaches who quote unquote aren't the famous ones, if that's even a thing. If that is even a thing. But Rory, welcome today. And I want, because I know this story, but I want you to tell this story. So give me the Cliff Notes version of your own sporting background and what that was like, because you've got a really unique story.
Yeah, so I suppose going back, started football from the age of 8 with my hometown team, through to 16 with their academy. Touched the first team at 16 for the pre-season friendlies and stuff, so I thought I was doing well. And then was released at 16 in the November, just before the GCSEs, which was hard to take. And then ended up signing at a lower level club, still professional, but a lower level club for the next 2 years. Did a scholarship. Again, was in the first team around the end of that time. Thought I was on for a professional contract. At the end of that, got released. And that's probably where the sticking point is, or the talking point anyway, is the whole playing against Man United on a Tuesday night, marking Danny Welbeck, who's had a good career. Did well. Obviously, I've been in the first team, so I was doing well anyway. Released the following day on the Wednesday, yellow piece of paper, gone, you're not good enough. Whole world collapses, identity collapses, moved back home with my mum and dad, who, to every credit to them, said you can't move back here at 18 without a job, like you need to go and start working. So for my cousin, which was an easy hit, and he was a manager at McDonald's in the middle of Preston Town Centre, and within 2 weeks I'd gone from playing Man United to frying McNuggets, and that could have been the end, that could have been, and maybe should have been the end of the football journey, and maybe sport and coaching and everything else, because I hated probably the world at that point, actually, not just football, but probably everyone, and resentments and everything else. And probably myself more than anyone, actually, is who I hated for not being good enough. And then turn that around slowly over the next year to going back to college, study AS levels, and ended up playing England schoolboys. Went on trial at a few clubs and signed a year's contract at Morecambe as a pro, which was all I ever wanted, really. Well, that's what I thought in my own head, was just that pro contract. Signed it again, didn't play for the whole year, sat on a bench, warming that all year, and was released without even being told I was released at the end of that year. And then from there, went to university, went and played in America, Canada, and used football. I think that's what my quote is to all the young players I work with now, is use football as a passport. or use football before it uses you, because it's going to use you, and that's not negative.
Yeah.
It's going to chew you up and spit you out like sport does. So use it as much as you possibly can. And yeah, since then I think I've done a good job of doing that.
Yeah, that's amazing, and don't, because that's part of a story that isn't heard. People don't tell that story, do they?
Yeah.
They don't tell that.
To.
Yeah, exactly, because they've not done the work to make their peace with it. And I find, and now like you've gone on to other coaching, but I find in the strength and conditioning space that a lot of coaches don't understand that the machine that sport is, and they will just keep chasing the Premier League football club. The when I was at Wasps, I was like, oh, and the next stop is England, and then it was like, well, nah, it's fucking not really. Biggest babysitting job in the world, and you don't get the opportunity to experience that unless it kind of spits you out as well. To then be like, learn that lesson, and I'm going to do something with it. We've got obviously a mutual friend, Rob, who's done that eloquently, and done his traveling and used it well, which is great. So that's ending up that professional contract, and I think what's quite an important part to hit on, because there's lots of coaches that will be listening to this as well, from a player's perspective. A lot of coaches just want to get that pro club contract. They just want to sign that contract. Well, what does that contract mean to you?
Yeah. And it's just, at the time for me, that pro contract was my whole identity. I think I'll keep coming back to identity piece, is what I work on a lot. It was my identity was tied in from the age of 8, that I was the footballer amongst at school, friends, family, whether I wanted it to be or not. That's what it was. And then when you keep getting sort of those setbacks at 16, 18, 20, you start to think like, well, who am I? What am I?
Yeah.
Is this all? Have I put all my eggs in one basket? I was fortunate that I carried on with my education throughout as well as I could, but it was identity. It was linked to that. Did I actually enjoy football at that point? I didn't. And I think that's probably actually what held me back more than anything else, was actually ultimately, when I think back now, I didn't want to be on enough. And actually, maybe I didn't want to be on at all. But I was in that raft down the river so far that anything other than keep paddling I was falling off the cliff face. I was down a waterfall and no one was going to catch me. It's not a great analogy, but yeah, I felt like I was like paddling. Probably everyone looked like it was smooth, and I was doing okay, but it was upstream for a lot. Probably from the age of 16, if I'm honest, it was upstream for me. It became a job, and it took away a lot of me. I lost myself to football, and probably having to conform to I don't know, a culture that didn't fit my ideals, or I don't know whose ideals it would fit, to be honest. But it was toxic when I think back, really, at times.
Yeah, and that because it is such a machine, and you say there, like, football became your job at 16, and think about the things that go on inside a 16-year-old boy's head.
Yeah. I think this is what I mean. It was a.
I remember what I was like when I was 16.
Yeah. I think that's what I wanted to be. I think I was, obviously, as a young footballer, you move out of home, you go to digs, you're living with a strange family in a strange new town with its own. I moved to Oldham, so it had a lot of racial tension at the time. There'd been big riots, and I'm not criticizing anyone there at all, but it probably wasn't the right place for me to be. I didn't think the way a lot of the people there thought. I didn't see much similarities. And then the culture within the football club itself was very macho, and it was very, it was a professional sporting machine, like we say. So it had to be, and they were quite relatively successful at the time. And I was too wet behind the ears and too soon to go into that world. Definitely, if I went in at 21, maybe different story. But at 16, I was literally just finished my exams. I personally was too young. Some lads could probably have done it when they were 12 and been fine. It was just my development on a emotional level, or whatever you want to call it, probably wasn't at the level that it needed to be to step into a man's world. Well, a Swado man's world, a very big kid's man's world, which is what it is, you know.
From my experience of coaching inside professional sport, it's a grown-up kids world. Like it's just, you know, and that's that whole identity piece. I remember when I was at Wasps, and I had we had a close relationship. I was rehabbing some of the boys. The England players had a close relationship with the skills coach at the time. He was a very well-known individual, and I had his phone number. And I was on the bus with my own rugby team, and they were like, "Oh, go on, prove blah blah blah." I was like, "Well, I've got his mate's phone number. You know, he won a World Cup. I've got his phone number, and here's our text messages." And that was my identity. I found that made me significant. What I was just a fucking wanker with someone's phone number that I was flexing on with my teammates, and like. But they, again, big kids find those things important when
it's the nature of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just the nature of that environment.
We had Ed Colson on. I said we, like it was more than just me. So I had Ed Colson on a couple of weeks ago, and he, professional rugby player, played Great Britain Sevens and stuff like that. And he ended up having to go out to South Africa at a young age because you've got to go where the work is. And again, like you end up in Oldham, and that's where the work is at 16, and that's a challenge in anyone's business.
I think it is. It's not, you know, you can look at my granddad's generation who's down the mines and stuff. It's not, I was getting paid to play football, and I think a lot of people would they'd still say that now. But if you haven't done it, you don't know what it's like. In that, it's on to use my granddad, it's on the coalface. You know, you're thrust into an environment where there is high demands, high pressure, and at 16, it's a lot. And it's not just on the pitch; it's off the pitch more than anything. It takes everything, it strips everything away. So I couldn't be a 16-year-old lad who's into music and reading and studying, all the things I went to do when I stopped playing and found myself again. I had to. It was almost imperative I dropped all that to be football. And I'm working with the young boys now who are doing the same, and it's good because there's change, and I'm working for an organisation that's trying to change this perspective, but there's still that culture permeates within the sport of you know, it's got to be football as the primary. And I understand, but there's more to life than football, to upset Bill Shankly.
Well, no, there is, and you find the people that can usually detach the most from that will excel within it. You know, it's compartmentalization, it's being able to segregate. And my last professional club, I think, retired more players under the age of 25 than I could ever imagine, because it just burnt them. And it was just scary to see these players just, when they were done, they just leave and stop playing, stop doing the thing that they love.
Which is a failure, really, isn't it? It was a failure.
Because all they because all they wanted to do was get to the fucking Premiership. They're still not there, and you know, fucking the amount of talent. And so when you so you did the schoolboy route and did the England schoolboys, all right? And so represented your country, that's pretty cool. And then got to travel around playing football. And what culturally, so from the States and Canada, and I know then you ended up in Asia. What did you find was different culturally about US and Canadian soccer to English?
It's just a lot more, my experience anyway, it was a lot more lighthearted. There's obviously the educational element attached to it. So I wasn't playing for a college or anything. I was playing in one of the lower professional sort of leagues, but there was more. It was more fun. And I don't know whether that was shackles were off because I was in a different I was in a different culture. If I was born and raised in America, maybe I'd have put that pressure on myself in the wrong way. But a lot of the boys were also at university, so they were studying, they had other options. It didn't feel like it was the be all and end all culturally. Like, it didn't permeate society. It was, there'd be 2,000-3,000 people at a game who were loving it because they love football, but not in England where every tiny thing is analysed and you got a rating out of 10 in the paper on a Sunday morning that you stew on for a week. You know, it wasn't as intense, which was liberating for me as a player. And then in terms of like, that's culturally. In terms of the actual sport itself, it was different demands. They were far more athletically capable, but technically maybe not as strong, which helped me because I stood out technically, which was good. There was a very different, and I don't know which one's right or wrong. I guess there's a century of history in football here, and in the US, there's not much of a pedigree in soccer, so we might be deemed more successful. But if you ask me, any lad who's sort of umming and ahhing at 18, whether to go to America on a scholarship or ride it out at non-league level here and see what happens, I'd be getting on that flight. That's just my opinion and experience. So,
mate, it's funny you say that. So where I rent this office out is an old doctor's surgery, and the lady who runs it, her son has had a full ride scholarship to play soccer in the States. And they picked him up because he's a fucking demon centre back, just whacks lumps out of people, and they love it. They want it. Wins a header and takes a fucking kneecap out, and they love him. And he's had the best time because he could have been. I think he was involved with Crawley Town or something like that, and just you know.
I'm not dismissing any of that level, like. So I wasn't good enough to play at that level in England. You know, I wasn't good enough, and I was all right. I just wasn't good enough to sustain even League Two, National League, which is a very good level. So I'm not dismissing those lads that are doing that for a living. But I think something needs to change here, maybe, to give them guys more of a hope for the future, and a little bit more education. And I'm not talking formal education. I'm talking informal education. As this is a short career. And it is going to end. Everyone's is going to end at some point, but you know, yours is going to end at the 30 if you're lucky, 35 latest. So what else is there? How can you utilize that skill set? What can you do to change your narrative rather than being a washed-up footballer who has a story down the pub? That's fine, but once that is over, I've seen it with some big name players that I've worked with closely recently, and they're a little bit lost when it all stops. And these lads who play for England League, and they're looking for what's next, but there's no one to guide them, or they haven't been told throughout this journey, like, well, there's something needs to be done. So I don't know, it's in a bit of a sorry state, I think.
And I often, you know, I think because there'll be quite a lot of obviously strength and conditioning speed freak geeks listening to this, and a lot of coaches get stuck into that trap. Where they're like, well, they come to this point, their late 20s, and they're like, well, what the fuck am I doing here? If you're a growth related individual, so if you seek to improve yourself, and some people aren't, some people will just sit there, and they're happy to sit there, and that's great. But you get to that point where you're like, was this it? What's you look at like the Premier League managers, and you look at like the coaches and stuff like that. It's like they just go from club to club to club to club. They're stuck in this space, and S&C coaches will do the same. They'll just try to go, or just dig their heels in and be like, right, there's only 12 head jobs in the Premier League rugby, so I'm going to stay here as long as I can because I've got a wife and I've got kids that I've got to try and put in school. And there's a coach that I work with, and he's involved with Premier League soccer team, first team. And he said, my goals were to get a first team Premier League football job in England. And he said, I've done it. And now I'm already thinking about what am I going to do next? Because a coach's efficacy is as short-lived as well. I do believe. If you want a life, and so there's some really important stuff that you're doing, and the reason why I wanted to have this conversation is it draws so many parallels that how from a player's mindset you can get stuck just spinning the wheel, but from a coach's mindset you can get stuck spinning the wheel. Basically, a player is really good at the sport. An S&C coach was not very good at the sport, but still wanted to be involved in the sport. So that the ideology is the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
One just carries the fucking water bottle, the other one drinks it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And so you ended up out in Asia, right? After being in the States, you then ended up out in Asia. So
I came back to I did a master's at Hartbury, and then got my teacher training after that. I was a teacher at Northampton School for Boys for a couple of years, which was unbelievable. But again, even there, just coming back to that point about coaching, even with teachers, that school was incredible. Like, I think in my form group, one lad plays for Chelsea now, another one runs for Great Britain, plays rugby for England. This is a state school in the middle of England. You know, they're insane at what they do. But I remember one of the other teachers, who's a brilliant bloke, and that was his life. And he said, you know, no one ever leaves here when they get this role as a PE teacher at school. It's like you're a lifer. And I was 25, 26, and that scared the shit out of me. I was just like, and I completely understood where he's coming from. And it would have been if, like you said, when you've got your lot, you're happy with it, and then you take that through. But for someone like myself, I think I had a bit more, not more, but I had a different mindset and an adventure. And so I wanted to see more and experience more. And again, some of the best coaching I've ever seen and has been at that school. And I've been around a lot of good coaches. That school is phenomenal at what they do. Obviously, the results speak for themselves, but also just the whole ethos of the school is amazing. But yeah, when a sort of colleague said that to me, he was probably only 5 or 6 years older than me. And I'm looking at like 25, another 40 years. I can't be this. This isn't me. And it felt almost remiss of me to have stayed, when I know there's probably people who would step into that role who will be lifers. And it's a prison term for me. You know, that's what you get sent to prison for life, don't you? And it almost felt like that. So the opportunity to go to Singapore came up, and it was it wasn't a tough decision. It was more of a me being me and finding it hard to feel like I was letting someone down rather than looking after myself. But even the way the school handled that was phenomenal. So yeah, I only thank them. But it was a good awakening at 25 as a coach, as a young coach. He was obviously working at one in terms of education. It's like working in the Premier League, I suppose, at the top school, with results coming and coaching teams to national finals, and was at the side of Twickenham when they won the Vars and stuff like this. It was amazing. But yeah, it was that was that moment for me. Like you say, with coaches, some sit and wait, and others can see there's more out there, and that's what I did.
You reminded me of a really interesting experience there, just as you say that, because I remember coming back for a pre-season. It was the last pre-season that I did with the team, and they had a performance. He's like, came in, and he's like, right, these are the fitness test scores. These are the standards. And he just basically increased the levels from last year. And I sat there and I thought, we're just going to try to keep increasing these every year, like thinking that that's going to help. And it's like, no, this is not, this is not what it's. And that's just, as you said, it's like you need something actually to create the challenge, but create the growth from the challenge. Not right. Well, let's focus on this part of coaching, or versus we've done that bit. Let's do this bit. Well, let's go up and let's get more depth into our world than what we're trying to achieve.
You have to in any walk of life, like coaching or it might be.
Well, there's a good song, Ben Howard, "Depth Over Distance."
There you go.
Yeah, that's what I love. Simple. That's it. So 100%, mate, 100%. Have you watched the TV show The Bear?
Yeah. Well, not finished it, but I've been watching it. It's brilliant.
But that is all about mastery.
Yeah.
Like, and that's addition by subtraction. Every second counts, and it's the personal journey that you go on.
Yeah,
is
it's
that
intense,
person?
right? It's very intense, and you feel it.
Yeah,
You're part of it, and it's good. It's brilliant
yeah.
TV.
It's chaos, which is a true depiction of life. I just love it when they're just fucking shouting at each other all the time.
Great show.
So you're out in Singapore, and here's a quick question for you: How many different countries have you played football in?
5, 4, 5.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's decent.
4 or 5.
Most footballers would probably only play one.
Yeah.
You know what I
5.
mean?
Yeah, 5, and that's what I mean about using football as a passport, whether it's playing
Yeah.
or coaching. When I moved to Singapore, I moved out of playing completely at that point. But having the playing background helped open doors coaching wise as well, definitely.
Yeah.
But experiencing different cultures, and I don't know. I just see it more as a journey. It's just an experience, the whole thing, whether it's football or not. I think football for me has been the vehicle that's allowed me to travel to all these places. And for other people, it'd be music, it could be art, it could be tech, it can be anything. But I just use football as mine, and I just think that a lot of people in sport are so pigeonholed and boxed in. That they're just so focused on that one door in front of them, which for me was the Oldham door. Like, I had to open that door for me to be a success. I say this to the boys I work with now, like, that's one door in front of you, and if that's locked and you can't get through it, there's a billion other doors, but you've been so tunnel vision on that you can't see them. So it might take you a year to see any other door again. It might take you a week, it might take 10, but one day you're going to see that there's just one small fraction. And I think the more coaches probably can do the same with that. I don't know, this chase to the top, whatever the top is. I don't know. There's just so many other doors that can open up. Like moving to Singapore, I was a PT. Got my qualifications before I went out, so I've gone from top school to then just working in a gym in Singapore. But my world opened up very quickly, and I'm traveling every weekend. I'm seeing different parts of the world. I'm training CEOs of big corporations over there who then open other doors for you. And it's, for me, there was always a little bit of, I'm loath to call it shame, but probably arrogance attached to, I'm just a PT. I didn't want to tell about PT, and almost, a bit of embarrassment attached to it, because I should have been a footballer, and then I was a teacher, and now I'm just a PT, and it's like the typical path of a failed athlete almost, is going down that route. I've sunk even further at that point now. I was like, oh shit. But
legs, bums, and tums.
Yeah, that's literally what it is. Yeah, but when you take the ego away from it and look on a piece of paper, I'm living on the other side of the world, forging my own path, working with some really good people, high level individuals, making friends from all over the planet, and it's invaluable. Really, you can't put price on that. It's priceless. So.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. Actually, Jared and I were talking about this PT debate of being a personal trainer. Well, if you're any good at what your job as an S&C coach, you are personally training people.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's the arrogance attached to being a strength and conditioning coach, which basically says fucking nothing anyway. Personal training is a more accurate term for the service provided.
Yeah.
So we had a giggle about that. But and so you say, like, you're now culturally experiencing so much more involved with soccer, football out in Singapore, and then you start working with players one-to-one, working with coaches, helping coaches, and how did that all come about?
It kind of came about from being bored of PT, if I'm honest. It was like, I'd done 2 years PTing, earning fantastic money, traveling all the time. But again, like you said, if you wanted more, you're going to seek more. I wanted a way back into football, probably trying to prove a point to myself still that I should be working in football. So then with that, I set my own business up called Edge of the Box. Started working with one young lad who'd been released from, he was an expat boy, He'd been released from a club in England, moved back with his parents in Singapore, but was at a loose end and lost. So with him, I took him in, did some one-on-one football training, but actually found that the impact I was having was mentally rather than physically. We were doing it, but mentally it was really impacting him, and he was sort of changing his perspective on life. And I thought, wow, maybe this is my like maybe this is my niche I can carve. So through him, small place, the connection sort of 1 rather than 6. That connection between people there ended up building quite a big base of. I think I've probably worked with well over 100 players in the end, but definitely a good solid stable of probably like 25 pro players there, female and male, and working through mentality, but within gym sessions. So I pushed them extreme for a footballer, knowing what I was doing, but then through that, the conversations that would then trigger after the session and the social side of it would be really powerful. And I got some huge success stories. One boy was in the army on national service, came out of that. I saw him make his international debut against Korea 2 years later. There's another lad at 25 signed his first pro contract, which is kind of unheard of anywhere. And that was amazing. But that was, I think I kind of disguised it. They thought it was all the gym work. And the gym work, I don't mean to be dismissive of gym work, but a gym program is a gym program. And there's nuances to it, but you can't reinvent the wheel too much in many of it. I think the simpler the better most of the time, like is what you do, right? It's think about it, and then the simpler it is, the better it is often. So I kept it pretty simple, football focus, but then the conversation and the pushing and the character building that I introduced, which I didn't have, is what I gave them. I didn't have that from any coach of my own, and that's where the real impact sort of came. And yeah, it was very, very successful for 4 year period.
That's amazing, and it speaks so much to the power of being in an environment which supports people to do just really fucking hard things.
Yeah.
Like there's the psychosocial elements of sometimes types of gym training are so important. Like someone who doesn't know what it's like to push, you got to put some weight on your back and you've got to push it.
Yeah.
And that will serve you in the 80th minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, I'm sure like the questions that you would, is this really necessary? And you find the cracks in people because it's their general preparation. You're because you know the game, because you know football, you know what it takes. It's how do I create that thread from the work we do here, on my hands out of the screen here, and put it here? How do we pull it? Putting Back to the Future, that shit.
It's hard. It is. That's what it is. And I think when you're doing it, I was just on autopilot almost. It's just in my nature to do it. But then I look back at my coaching and the coaching I had, and there's a lot of experiences that go into that. Getting rejected so many times as a young player, not having a coach who could understood me enough to put their arm around me to increase my performance. Probably not doing any of the gym stuff either. I was a centre back myself, but I probably weighed about 12 stone wet through when I was 19, 20, which isn't enough to play at that level. You need to be bigger. So there's a lot of the gaps that I had in my career, I guess, which is what a lot of coaches do. They then go and step into that coaching world and try and plug those gaps for others to help others achieve what they didn't, which is what I was doing. I think I was also extremely fortunate in Singapore that Singapore's a culturally, it's an extremely cosseted's the wrong word, but it's a very safe society. There isn't too much resistance to basically everything sort of is easier than your average bloke in the UK. I think someone in Singapore, they would argue maybe, but they've got a good social system, they've got a good housing, the weather's always fairly nice, there's a minimum wage which is high, you're pretty comfortable there, which means that they haven't necessarily been pushed the whole way through, and the sporting culture around it sits bottom of the pile. So I was coming in probably with a bit more of a British attitude or European attitude, which is a bit more driven, and I think it was a shock to the system for many of them, but it was just what they needed. It's like a jolt they needed. And then a fair few of them have took the sort of baton on and are forging a new path in Singapore as coaches themselves, and hopefully inspiring the next generation to
Mm.
through the work we did, which is powerful.
Yeah, that's so good. And you share insight, like you speak really well around this subject, but essentially, being able to be an observer of yourself. So self-observation, the removal of ego to understand where we are, what we're doing, and why we're doing it, and how we're kind of navigating this stuff.
Yeah.
I've had therapy for nearly be 10 years this December, and it's been the best thing I've ever done because I've learned more and more and more, and the layers that keep coming up. And it's like for every Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for every actualization you get to, it's like, well, holy shit, then everything's a bit more brighter, it's a bit different. I'm in a space now where I can understand a lot of these things.
Yeah.
And that brings us to leave Singapore. There's not to mention you met your wife out there, which is amazing, and had a great time there. You come back to the UK and you had to go all over again.
Yeah. And that was probably the biggest, I'd say maybe a bigger hit than any of the football stuff in the last 18 months, because having built something successful, which I thought was the end, I think as a coach, I set my own business up and it was successful. And I thought, okay, within the confines of this business, I can keep growing. So not within the confines, but I'll grow the business up and that will be me. And I remember walking through, there's a place in Singapore, like a big reservoir where people go for like recreational time, and walking I was with my sister and a young lad stopped and, hey, are you at edge of the box? And I was like any coach would be, I was like, yeah, I made it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not even me. But then again, and this is that self-reflection piece, like I'd lost my identity as me. I'd become edge of the box. And I think it's taken me a year to get past that, having kind of really lost edge of the box since we moved back. And I was lost without it, which was crazy because 4 years ago I didn't have any of that. I was just building experience. So yeah, it's been tough, but that reflection has been it's brutal at times. And I guess every coach has to go through it because how volatile the industry is. Whichever sport you're in, you're going to be getting fired at some point, most likely, or moving on with someone who does get fired. So yeah, it's been tough, but really good as well. To a privileged position. I know that I could probably like have that time to sit back without a kids and mortgage as well. I'm not in as desperate a need to like rush into something else. But again, like you put pressure on yourself, you want to be successful, and that internal pressure was mad. It was tough few months for sure.
Yeah, it's challenging. And you know what you said there, which is so important for any coach to listen to and hear, that is that you said, you created something that you didn't have 4 years before.
Yeah.
And you're still the same person.
Yeah.
And so for any coach listening and any individual listening to this with an imminent threat or the fear of loss or the lack of mentality, well, what happens if I don't get this or I don't do this? You lean into it and let it go.
Yeah.
Because, when I moved down to the South Coast a couple of years ago, I spoke to a coach. He's like, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know. I just fucking figure it out.
Yeah.
It will come.
Yeah.
It will work itself out because I'm in a place where I can grow.
Yeah.
I can breathe. I can be abundant and have that vision to create something for myself. When you do the opposite, you go, oh well, woe for me.
Yeah.
They just they took away it. They took it away. Those bad people.
Yeah. It's the easiest thing is to point the finger, right? Everyone else rather than looking with the So
yeah. So you like full disclosure to any of the listeners, we worked together for a short while. We went through the process of you writing a book, which was crazy, which was a really cool experience. And but then from there, you've mentioned a few times that you're working with the Premier League Football Association, right?
It's called League Football. Yeah, so basically the 72 clubs underneath the Premier League in England, the professional clubs.
Amazing. And when we were going through the book and it was kind of like your story, wasn't it? We're just trying to work through that, which I'll play. It is on Amazon. It is on Amazon, so if anyone wants
Still on
to,
there somewhere,
yeah, it'll be there, mate.
I'll check.
But it's a real spiritual journey, that. And when you said there's that statistic, 98%.
Yeah,
What is that? For people probably would never be aware of
yeah.
this, and it
No.
blew my mind. I'm going to give you.
I'm pretty sure that at the time that was the percentage of lads who sign professional terms or youth team terms from 16 onwards who don't end up playing professionally.
And what did that work out as a number per year? What was it? Players getting released?
Crazy. I can't actually pull it off the top of my head, but it was
2
hell of a
million.
lot. Yeah, it was something insane. Yeah,
It was
crazy.
obscene, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a
It was
frightening amount.
Yeah, it was mad.
And so I've got a question. It's a question that I've wanted to ask you from writing your book and with the work that you do now. Do you find that you go back to stories that you put in the book when talking to players?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's you have to. Obviously, you work off a sort of syllabus almost, which has been designed scientifically to have the maximum impact to the guys. But you put your own slant on it, and again, that's how you become more relatable. And I think that's for any coach. You got to find that relatability to your players as soon as you can. I walk into a room with up to 12 young lads who are just about to start their footballing career, probably the heroes at school. Now they're in this men's adult world, which I talk about, that I was thrust into as well. And I know that in that room, if there's 12 of them, there's probably 8 of them frightened to death of where they are. There's probably 2 that are cocksure and full of themselves and are the men right now until they have a bad game on Saturday and they aren't anymore. And there's probably 2 who don't want to listen to it. Well, I'd say that. There's probably 8 who aren't listening to a word I'm saying, and then there's 2 who probably are listening. And you got to get a buy-in straight away. And I think for me, that buy-in is definitely the Man United to McDonald's to Morecambe is like that little bounce back is a good one initially, to create that I've been in their shoes and I can empathise with where they are right now. And I think just during that, pulling that barrier, sort of just getting rid of it. I had a good one up north recently with the club. A few of the boys were like very demonstrative in the class that I was coaching them through. And I could see like a lot of tendencies in one or two of them that were similar to mine in this past year, even. So nothing to do with my football, but restlessness and a real desire to they didn't want to be in that room. They had energy that they needed to expand, but they didn't know where to put it. So I just talked about the past year I'd had and me finding direction again and just coming down to their level was the most powerful thing I did. It's not work that necessarily you get the immediate feedback from until you break that barrier down. Ultimately, I'm delivering a message that they don't want to hear, which is that the chances are, lads, that you're not going to make it. So what else is there? Who are you? Who are you? Not your footballer, not Sam the footballer. Who is Sam? And football's one table leg of hopefully 5 or 6 that prep you up, which is good.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's so because did you find there it's coaching from a place of empathy and patience.
Yeah.
Which is the complete opposite of sport.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the results. Yeah. You see it, don't you? But then when I was on the side of the pitch last year coaching, I was also when there's a win on the line, you get into it, right? So you can't be perfect. So yeah, I don't know what the true answer is. There's somewhere in the middle. It's nice, I'm sure.
Well, I think it has to be situationally dependent. That's what I always found with it when coaching in teams and stuff like that. And I've just got involved with the team that's down here, Worthing, and they're bottom of the fucking league. We've got 12 games to go. The coach, they lost their S&C coach. It's like, what are you going to do? So they ain't going to write any gym programs. I'm going to be the guy that's going to come in and chuck a few bucks about, and we're going to have some fun. And he was like, love it.
Happy days,
because you just straight in, I'll fucking get out there, rugby tackle them, I'll put my boots on again, and that's, but then take someone out of that context, arm round.
Yeah.
What do I need? What do I need to give you now to make you? But when we're out there in the arena, you can't fold.
Yeah.
You can't fold. because someone's going to come down your channel and just going to fucking sit you down, and
Yeah.
that's not good for anyone.
No, that's just the way it is. So yeah, it's interesting.
So,
Human
so you
beings.
said something, yeah, without a doubt, and I would love to have you back on later down the line. I think you're wonderful, but you asked me a question, as if you were in a coaching role. You just stepped into like, who is Sam? But for now, who is Rory?
Right now is it's a good question. Right now, I'm, I guess, trying to discover what I guess balance. Actually,
Hmm.
that's what
Hmm.
that's what I'm trying to discover. And
Hmm.
so the answer to that is unbalanced right now. Is probably the
Yeah,
true answer. I'm honest, that unbalanced,
yeah.
and trying to just get that equilibrium, and or at least so yeah, right now just figuring stuff out, and also lucky enough to be able to do that without too much,
Mm.
well, not without too much pressure on myself, I suppose.
Yeah. So you're
To,
still coaching the football team?
yeah.
So you
No, I'm
still
not
over
coaching football. I'm not on the grass anymore. I've moved away from that side of it now. I think there's too much pressure, and like I said, I get too involved, and yeah, it's very stressful. So I'm doing the work with the football clubs, working at a
Yep.
gym, and moving slowly into motorsport as well, which is a fascinating field.
Yeah.
That's what I've
New
seen so far.
challenges, new
New
growth.
challenges, new, yeah. Hopefully, there's balance lurking somewhere.
Yeah. Well, mate, that's that. I don't. For me, if I was to put my spin on it, it's always the search back to balance, which will prepare you for the next time you unbalance yourself.
Yeah,
Because we create it all, and it's
yeah,
it's like you're just finding that scale, and it's like, let's just get it there, a couple of days, and then let's just fuck it up again. Let's go
yeah,
again, and
yeah.
and get going. So for those listening, someone may be listening to. So you said there could be 8 people that haven't even made it past the first 20 minutes, but there may be 2 that have listened to the whole episode. If they wanted to reach out to you because you got a lot of experience, where
Mm.
would be the best place to contact you?
Um, Probably through Instagram, which I
Yeah,
think is Edge of the Box One is my handle.
yeah.
I've not
I'll
been too
put it
active
in
on
the
it last
description.
year, so I'm back on it now.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be the easiest way. But
amazing.
yeah, as I say, if there is anyone listening, and if they did want to ask any questions, then please do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Outstanding.
Nice one.